Oh, my bad. I skipped Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale. Big whoop-de-doo. This probably should have been on the kickoff show, but the only reason they didn't have it on the kickoff show was that there was some guest appearances. You had Diamond Dallas Page, you had Tatanka, who they gave no fanfare towards, Baron Corbin from NXT, and Shaq for some reason, even though he hasn't really been relevant in like 5-10 years at the absolute least. So they decided to put this on the main card. And this actually happened before The Rock's cameo, by the way. And this is where I started to once again feel that fatigue because, Shane versus Undertaker was so, intense. You were afraid that somebody was going to die. And, when they didn't, you're feeling that relief. But then the exhaustion starts to creep in again, even though this show has already been far too long by now. And the Battle Royale was fine for what it was. If you like Battle Royales, you'll like it, this one. And I actually do like that they kind of add spectacle to it, or they make it into a much bigger spectacle than I think they've done before, in that they're having like Royal Rumble styled guest appearances. I think that is pretty cool. But there were things that happened in it that I really disliked. Shaq, considering he got built up so much, was taken out relatively quickly. That is actually something that's probably a good thing. But Damien Sandow, once again, why do they hate him so much? He gets strong as babyface reactions, and they just immediately throw him out in a comical way, and that just makes people boo Shaq, even though I think we're supposed to be cheering for him. The Social Outcasts were dominant, though. That was kind of interesting. And I liked that Baron Corbin won. Baron Corbin I actually really disliked for a long time. But on NXT, he eventually did start winning me over by just getting better in his matches. And once he became less aloof and more aggressive and dickish, he became a lot more interesting. And I think, him winning is a bold move from WWE's part. Except this Battle Royale means ultimately nothing, so I'm sure he'll have a brief push at best before eventually falling back down like anybody else who's won this trophy. And the ending was kind of anticlimactic too. It's just, I think Kane's throwing out Mark Henry and Baron Corbin comes from behind and throws Kane out. I mean, the first year they had Cesaro lifting up Big Show, walking across the ring and dumping him out. Awesome. The second one had Sandow challenging Big Show, and even though it wasn't as awesome, at least it was very, emotionally driven. Like, you really want to see, Sandow actually pull it off. And he's getting so close at times, but just couldn't quite do it. So I was more invested in that, whereas Baron Corbin just tossing Kane over was just very anticlimactic. So now we finally get to the WWE Championship match. Triple H versus Roman Reigns. And story-wise, they tried. They really tried. But unfortunately, the authorities stale once more. Every week they come out and repeat the same fucking shit over and over again. And they even did that twice on one Raw. Why? And Roman Reigns, they keep trying to recapture the magic of last year's TLC, where he actually did win over a hostile crowd by having him just destroy Triple H and everybody who crosses him. But it was very transparent. We all saw through it, and it seemed very desperate. So fans just did not budge, and they did not budge in this one either. It wasn't a great match. I thought it was very subpar. But I think it would have been a lot more effective if the crowd was behind Roman Reigns, because this was a very story-driven match. It was not supposed to be very fast-paced. It wasn't supposed to be very exciting. Now, I can criticize this because this show has been already too long, and we're all kind of drifting off by this point. So I think it would have been a lot smarter to go like a total intense, fast-paced route, much like Sheamus and Roman Reigns at TLC last year. So at least, even if we don't like the people, we at least enjoy the match on some level. But this one was trying to be story-driven, and if the fans were with Roman Reigns, I think it would have worked, because It's a slow burn build, and when Roman finally conquers him, it's supposed to mean something. But all you could pay attention is the booing, and then when the mics for the audience are suddenly muted, so everything goes silent, and that's sort of what upstages the match itself. Otherwise, I thought this was boring. I thought Triple H's entrance was kind of cool. He has like these Clive Barker-esque monstrosities, on the Titantron. It was bizarre, but that's Triple H's entrances in any WrestleMania, and I actually love that aspect of him. And Roman Reigns, he had a pretty cool one too, but they kind of messed it up because his whole thing was he does that fist to the ground, and then like this giant star graphic comes from underneath him, and that leads to like fireworks going off. And I think it's actually very nice of the Authority, who are his mortal enemies, to actually give him this much stuff to make his entrance look very impressive, by the way. And it would have been cool once again if the timing was on, but otherwise it was just kind of a dull match. And the show itself, like I said, it was just too long, very awkwardly paced. It didn't seem like any of the matches were designed to complement each other. This was a problem with NXT TakeOver Dallas too, but the difference is NXT TakeOver Dallas, they had too many matches that were fast-paced, to where you start to feel a little exhausted. You have Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura, I believe his name is, and that's a intense, awesome, exciting affair. And then you have Bayley versus Asuka, which is also the same kind of match, but not quite as good. But by then, we're just a little bit burned out from the previous match. They probably should have tried something different there. And so that led to a certain amount of burnout in that show. That's why I don't think it's quite as good as other NXT specials, even though the matches themselves were great. Here, the matches themselves weren't very great, and none of them, the pacing just did not complement each other very well. So some matches, you'll have a slow burn pace where it slowly rises, and you'll have another one that's a slow burn pacing, and you just don't do that. You do maybe have one be very fast paced, then the following one be kind of slow paced, the cool down match, and then you could do one that's a slow burn pace, but then you change that up too. And the way it all played out, it just made this program as a whole, this WrestleMania, very plodding. And like I said, it took me 3 days to finish this because I thought it was so boring. So individual matches weren't awful, but they weren't good enough to make up for the length. They weren't enough to justify the length. It was just a mess. It was a mess all in all. So read my written review if you want. I hope you enjoyed this video. Follow me on Facebook if you want to read more wrestling reviews. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my website. I've been reviewing all of the Howling movies. And I shall see you guys later.